Welcome to the Prosper Project, the show that helps entrepreneurs build brands that impact the world and the bottom line. We know that success doesn't come in a one-size-fits-all package. That's why we're bringing you adaptable marketing strategies along with valuable insights from inspiring changemakers, firebrands, and visionaries. I'm Lorraine Sugart, founder of the disruptive brand agency Prosper for Purpose. Now for this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Prosper Project. So I had a whole session planned for today. I had my notes, I was ready to record, but I had an early coffee with someone that I was meeting in person for the first time. And we had this electrifying conversation about what it meant to go beyond what was expected and to do things for the love of doing them. And I just need to capture all the thoughts. And I thought, what better place to do that than right here with all of you and share some ideas that kind of came out of this conversation. So, Jackie, if you're listening, this one's for you. So first of all, what do you do in your life that is somehow related to your business, but isn't about driving sales? Now, if you're like most people, the fact that I just said that is going to give you pause. But what I want you to consider is, what would it look like to use your gifts and to go one step further, one step beyond, making that additional effort to put something out in the world that you can use your genius for, that is also either nurturing your spirit or is just fun to do. So where this conversation started is I am the Ohio ambassador for the Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization. And the mission of Women's Entrepreneurship Day is to alleviate poverty by empowering, celebrating, and supporting women worldwide. This event was started back in 2014, I believe, by a woman who hails from my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. Her name is Wendy Diamond. She is a powerhouse, and she started this event because her feeling was that there is a day for everything. There's like a turtle day and a coffee day and all kinds of other days, but there wasn't a day designated for women entrepreneurs. And women going into business and starting their own companies was really on the rise, continues to be on the rise. And she wanted to do something to not only celebrate those women, but to use this event as a way to elevate the issue of gender parity. I heard about this event and went to New York. The premier event is at the United Nations, and it's spectacular. So I went there and I thought two things. One was I'd already been asked if I wanted to bring this event back to Wendy's hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. And so my first reaction was, yes, of course I want to do this. But I also knew that the event that happens at the UN with all the celebrities and the star-studded cast and leaders of industry from around the world, because of course it's at the UN and it's in New York City, what would that look like in Cleveland? I knew it wasn't exactly the same. And so I created an event the first year that I've built on since then. So the first WED Ohio event was in 2018. And we've continued to do the event, and it's evolved, but it's evolved in unexpected ways. It hasn't evolved necessarily by getting bigger. It's evolved by really tapping into what is going on in our local and regional communities. And so what are the issues that we're facing? What are women entrepreneurs saying right now about doing business in Ohio? And how do we meet them where they are with educational and networking opportunities to support them while also celebrating them? So that's what we do with what I call WED Ohio, so Women's Entrepreneurship Day Ohio. And so Jackie was asking me about this, and then she shared an idea that she had to do something and asked me what I thought. And from there, our conversation just went into what are the things that you do from your heart rather than your head? And I think that's a good way to kind of set the stage for this conversation. And so we've all heard of the phrase, go one step further. And it really suggests that when you're completing a task or a project that you want to put more effort into it. So you may think it's done, but then how do you go one step further to make that project or task better? And kind of the same thing with going beyond. So what does it mean to go beyond? It may mean taking 1, 2, or even 10 steps beyond what you need to do more than is expected or required. And that's what this episode is about. I want you all to think about what you do in your work and what causes excitement and what causes burnout and what joys you get that you can potentially experience outside of your business. And this could be something that you do as a volunteer for another organization, but most of the time, it's what leads people like me to start something or to tap into something that may already exist. So for Wendy Diamond, it meant starting Women's Entrepreneurship Day. For me, it meant seeing that event and wanting to bring it here. And for other people, it can look differently. So I used to lead PR for a company that had just under 500 stores in 48 states. And I was tasked with really further developing their philanthropic footprint. Let's just call it that. And what I really knew from my 20 some years in the world of PR and marketing was that when you want to create a change, in this case, the company was focused on sewing and arts and crafts and things like that. And so when you want to involve more people in a movement, a trend, you can do it two ways. You can do it top down, where the company puts things out and drives things, or you can do it bottom up. Now, most companies will start by doing grassroots efforts. They'll do things from seeds and they'll network locally and they'll plant all those seeds and try to create the movement that way. And as they grow, they shift to doing everything top down. But the gold is by doing both. And so at this company, we were doing a lot of the top down, but we weren't doing any of the grassroots. And so I suggested that when we opened or kind of refurbished one of our locations, that we actually do local giving. And we put into place that program, and I got to actually go to a lot of the grand openings myself and see the impact that it made with local giving that we were doing. And those were my happiest moments working for this company. Now, I loved what I did, but this was just so beyond because it tapped into what was important to me and my values. And interestingly, it also tapped into the values of the people that we wanted to bring into our stores. So they're local people, and you're in a retail establishment. You know, you have local stores. You may be across the country, but you're local to the people that are in each of your markets. So what can you do to actually become part of a community rather than being seen as this corporate entity? And so those were some of the things that we did. Other companies do similar things. I want to say Pepsi was a premier brand in this space by doing local giving. And they did some really incredible things starting about 15 years ago. But my message here is that any company can do this. So Prosper for Purpose, as you all know, we build brands, we use PR and marketing and events and other things to help our clients distinguish themselves in their marketplace, build their visibility, their influence, and ultimately their impact. And so we're always focused on the impact that they can make. So the idea behind this concept is serving. So when you're giving or serving, that is driven by the heart more than the head. So sure, you're using your gifts or your products or your resources, but you're also using your heart. What is going to resonate with people? And what's important to me? And for a lot of people, you go back to, how did I start? When I started, what are the things that I was doing? Maybe you were going around to local businesses and meeting the owners and introducing yourself. Maybe you were inviting people that you used to work with out for coffee. Maybe you were going to sell your goods at flea markets and holiday bazaars and things like that. Think about the joy you had. If you ever think back to when you talk to your parents or your grandparents about their happiest days, they don't usually say it was the day that we made it. A lot of times they say, when we look back, it was that first apartment, or it was this first year that really nurtured our soul. It was the years of struggle that you look back on and you think, we did that. We made that through, and it just made our heart feel happy. And so maybe for your business or company, it's reaching back to lift as you climb. And that's something that we at Prosper are doing more and more of. So Women's Entrepreneurship Day, just as an example that you can try on and think about, is there a version of an event that you could do that makes sense? This is a volunteer effort. So Prosper does not seek, nor do we make money off of this event. We actively reinvest the money from ticket sales to underwrite attendees who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to attend this event. So why do we do it? I think for me, gender parity is an issue that's always been near and dear to my heart. I had my own experiences as a woman working in a corporate world when I started out, and in kind of corporate type nonprofits, and saw a little of, what do I want to say? There was a lot of good, but there was also some things that weren't good. So there were definitely gender parity issues there. And then I had two girls, and I wanted to really keep track of and do my best to ensure that the world that they inherited would be more equitable than the one that I had entered the workforce in. And so along the way, I did what I could and spoke up when I could. And when I had the opportunity to do Women's Entrepreneurship Day, it was also taking the work of Prosper that works with purpose-driven brands and brands that are trying to have, at some level, some social or environmental impact through their work, and really take that to a next level. And so what I want to encourage you to do today is think about why you started. Think about what values were important to you, what impact you wanted to make in the world, and where you are now. And look, we are all so busy. We could probably work our jobs 24/7 if we wanted to. But I want you to think about what going beyond might look like for you. And it doesn't have to be an event, and it doesn't have to be necessarily giving things away. But what could it look like? So I'm going to just brainstorm because I made no notes for this session. Hopefully you can't tell. I'm just feeling really in the moment and just am excited about this. There's a lot going on in our world right now. There's a lot going on in the country, and there's a lot going on in the world. And we can choose every day to let the weight of everything that's wrong weigh us down, or we can choose to go forward and do something good every day. And that might be making a difference and stepping up to stand against the things that you see are wrong. And if you're doing that, I applaud you. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And it can also be by going to get coffee and having a lovely conversation with the person waiting on you without holding up the line and making their day. And it can also be reaching out to your client and picking up the phone and just checking in, just to say, was thinking about you, how are you doing? And it can also be holding an employee appreciation day where you gather and have an event that your employees really care about. So maybe you take a poll and you find out that your team, everyone on your team is really passionate about animals. And so you take a day and you all go and volunteer at your local APL or Humane Society. There are so many ways that each of us can choose to go beyond our work for the people that we serve, for the people who work with us, for the communities in which we're based. And we can bring that light and bring that caring and that compassion and go one step beyond. So I hope that gave you some ideas. And I know this was a little bit off our normal topic today. I hope you'll forgive me for sidestepping, but I just really think that this whole concept is so beautiful and so timely that I hope you'll consider it. I hope you'll consider what it could look like to serve, not to sell, but to give from your heart, not your head, because I promise you, your return on investment will far exceed anything that you could do otherwise. Before you go, I have one more thing to add. Because I've talked about Women's Entrepreneurship Day, if you are in Ohio, please go to wedohio.org. That's WED, ohio.org, and learn more about the Ohio Summit on Tuesday, November 14th. If you are not in Ohio, I encourage you to go to women'seday.org and find a Women's Entrepreneurship Day organizational summit near you. There are summits happening in 144 countries around the world and cities everywhere. I encourage you to check out this movement, and I encourage you to attend an event. I promise you, they are not like your typical women in business or women's networking event. They're really, really special. Women's Entrepreneurship Day is celebrated worldwide on November 19th, but the events take place in November, cities near you. Please check it out. So thanks for everyone for listening to this episode. And I look forward to seeing you next time when I will be back on topic, talking about developing your brand and why PR is so important. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Prosper Project. If you want to grow a peerless, profitable brand, please hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you find value in our show, please help us reach others by sharing an episode and leaving a review. In appreciation, please visit prosperforpurpose.com for more free resources to help you grow your business.